All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is that time again. Welcome to our work session for November 2024. We'll come to order. Uh, Glad to have you all here. We have some Concord 101s here. Look at I want all of them to stand. Please stand, all the Concord 101ers. Yeah. What I typically do is stand up. You're going to stay up. The meeting lasts an hour. You can sit down at the end of that. But I'd like to have us tell us one thing that you really find the most exciting about what you're doing. And state your name so we all know who you are.
Okay, my name's Christy Gola. I really enjoyed the budgeting part. Like, I really did. I loved that exercise. I loved just really getting an idea of you know where things happen because of taxes, but to really see it in action, it was kind of cool. I had an appreciation for taxes, which is weird.
Okay.
Right?
I'm Robert Garrett. Concord High Class of '73. I was born and raised here, so it's amazing to see how well Concord has grown and find out all the different aspects about how the city operates and how many professional people we have in top positions who do a fantastic job. It has been a tremendous experience for me.
Robert, I'm a spider from 71. There you go. Go Spiders. Okay.
Hi, my name is Gabe Aldrich. I just have really enjoyed just the behind the scenes of how the city of Concord works, how all the different departments come together. And I really enjoyed the last class, the city police, hearing, I think it was Major McGee speak.
Yeah.
I never have heard a police officer speak from his point of view. It was really inspiring.
Thank you.
Jack Lambert, and I love meeting the staff. I haven't met a person in 101 yet that works for the city that I've not been impressed by their dedication and professionalism and just how good of people they are. So that's the thing I've enjoyed the most.
Thank you, Jack.
Hi, I'm Brady King, Concord native. Went to Central, so '07. Really just enjoyed like how so many people work here. They love their job and they stay here. So like seeing how many people have retired with City Concord, it's really inspiring. And I love living here and encourage everybody else to live here. So
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Anna Pohl. I guess I'm a newbie here then because I've only been here 5 years. So we chose to live in Concord. Actually, we picked a house in the Cox Mill School District. So my son graduated from there in '23. And I mean, I've loved the entire class the whole way through, and just seeing the love the employees have for the city, and just learning so much more about my community. And I think the strategic planning meeting that we had, that was one that I really enjoyed a lot. So thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cora Billingsley. I've enjoyed the class. I've been here for 15 years, and I just really didn't know how much Concord had to offer. So seeing all the different departments and just how much expertise goes into it, and how you really love your community that you work for.
Todd Caperonis. Really enjoyed the class. One thing that stood out is how everybody really enjoys working for the city, but also you give them the resources and the equipment to do their job effectively. That's really apparent. Probably the class that stood out the most was visiting the airport. When they shared about they set a record operation out there supporting our neighbors in the mountains. That was pretty amazing that whole team pulled together to help our neighbors. So.
Operation Airdrop was amazing, wasn't it?
Susan Gherkin. I've lived in Concord since 1987, so I've seen all the growth that has come through, and I was extremely impressed with the attention to detail and the hospitality that we received.
Thank you. Is that all of you? Well, again, let's thank you for what you're doing. Oh, we do. We have another one. All right.
by way of Alabama. And I love Harris. Thank you. Yeah, I moved here in 2020. Love the area. I joined the class when it came through my news feed on Facebook. I think I was talking about trying to learn more about the area, and those algorithms sent me this link, so I signed up. So far, I've enjoyed every class. Like for instance, now with waste management, I no longer flush flushable wipes because they do not dissolve as I thought.
Yeah.
I was intrigued with the airport to see the green fire trucks they have and everything. I was like, wow, this is cool. So I work at Lilly, and so it comes to the point where I started out telling people I got class tonight, this is our topic for tonight. And then the next day I'll tell them how class went. So now it's, hey, Evelyn, what class you got today? And then tomorrow we'll have like a 30-minute conversation about what I learned while I was here tonight. So tomorrow we'll talk about whatever I learned tonight at the fire department tonight. So it's just like a conversation with my whole department when I get back to work is about it all. And I just share it with my team members, and I've just truly enjoyed the Concord 101 class.
Well, thank you so much for sharing for all of you, and keep up the good work, and we'll be having graduation coming up pretty shortly. Any scouts here today? All right, youth council. All right, we'll go ahead and get into our meeting. Presentations, we'll have 3 on Thursday night. Presentation and proclamation recognizing Saturday, November 30th, Small Business Saturday. Remembrance of Marvin H. Caldwell in recognition of 50th anniversary of Echo Park being named Marvin Caldwell Park, and the presentation of resolution in remembrance of Bradley Eugene Cohen. Thursday, we'll also have the informational items coming from Concord United Committee at our annual presentation, and department reports, Parks and Rec, and Downtown Streetscape update. So we'll move right into public hearings. First of all, council, there is number 3 that has been requested to be tabled. Is there a motion to table number 3 in the public hearings? So moved, Mayor. Second. Motion is second. Ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand. All right, that's been tabled. Thank you very much. We'll move to number 1. Conduct a public hearing pursuant to NC General Statute 158.7.1 and consider offering contract for 1 year, 85% tax-based Center City and Economic Development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I ask Cassidy to give the staff report to council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mayor, council members, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason, and Mr. Payne. My name is Cassie Watts. It's the first time I'm presenting to you guys, so it's nice to meet you. And for those of you that I know, it's good to see you again. I'll be presenting this item for a public hearing that would need to have on Thursday for a 1 year, 85% tax-based Center City Economic Development Grant. It is for Hood Ventures LLC for a proposed mixed-use development on Cabarrus Avenue East between Bonnie Street and Woodsdale Place for approximately 210 residential units and roughly a little over 10,000 square feet of commercial space. So I'll be happy to answer any questions if you have any. And
Welcome, Casey. And any questions from council?
I have one. I'm just trying to get this visual in my mind. I know where the 2 streets are,
yes, ma'am.
but will there be any current housing or anything in there that's got to be demolished?
We do have a slide that shows the overall overview of the property. There are several buildings on the property that they would be removed. They compiled. If you could see that lower left picture is the current aerial view, and those are a combination of the properties there. It's four lots.
Okay.
So yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any more questions? Thank you, Casey.
Okay, thank you.
Number 2, conduct a public hearing, consider adopting an ordinance annexing 1.905 acres, Springbrook Avenue.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Alden will present this to council this evening.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. This is an annexation petition for 618 Springbrook Avenue Northeast. You should be familiar with this particular property. At the September meeting, you did review the preliminary application for water and sewer and voted to have the applicant proceed to the final application phase, which does include this voluntary annexation. This is 1.905 acres. It is currently zoned RM1. It is in the City of Concord's ETJ, and the proposed zoning is City of Concord RM1. This will be for a single-family residential home. As you can see on the zoning map, everything in this vicinity is single-family residential. It is zoned RM1, either in the city or in the ETJ. The 2030 land use plan does designate this as suburban neighborhood, and RM1 is listed as a corresponding zoning classification, so it would not need to go to planning and zoning to have zoning placed on the parcel. We did provide notification to adjacent property owners. There were no recognized neighborhoods or HOAs within a half mile. Those letters did go out on October 30th, and this was advertised in the Independent Tribune on November the 2nd. And your next steps would be to consider this request and adopt or deny the annexation. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to answer those.
All right, Autumn, any question from council? Yes, go ahead.
I got confused. I did not go back and look at September. I remember this is an existing home. They're not adding a home.
No, so they have built the home, and this was an oversight. They didn't realize they needed to annex in order to get water and sewer.
This is the lady that had the the flower thing? No?
No.
Okay. Okay.
Single-family home.
No more questions? All right, thank you very much. Item 4, conduct a public hearing to consider adopting an ordinance amending Article 5 subdivision plats, sites, construction plans.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Kevin's going to present this item to council this evening. He'll also remain up here for item 1 under presentation, petitions, and requests.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. This is essentially a cleanup item of our CDO of 7 different articles. We work a lot with the CDO, and we get a lot of feedback from the public, and sometimes we look at it and we say, why the heck is that in there like that? And these are a handful of corrective changes to address some errors that are there, make things a little simpler and a little more reasonable, and to just help us all out and make our jobs a little easier. I mean, there are a lot of changes. They're all covered in the strike-through. I'll go through them quickly, just for the sake of brevity here. In Article 5, we have a requirement that final plats be notarized. We are removing that. That's not required by the statutes. And if you don't have the notary stamp on there, we'll be able to record final plats paperless once the county moves to full facilities of being able to do that. There's a clarification about installation and bonding of stormwater devices. The way we've got it written, that will allow a COC to be issued and a bonding of a stormwater device up to 6 months after that COC, or stormwater department, has reviewed this information with the state, and they're happy with that. The scale for construction plan drawings, it's set as one specific scale. We've added 3 more in there to allow a little bit of variability to, depending on the size of the drawing. We've moved the townhome dimensional standards to a different section. They're hard to find. This makes them a little easier to find. We have also changed the front and street side setbacks for multifamily development. Right now, if you have more than 40 units in a multifamily development, you're required to be set back 50 feet from the street. And so we've decided to move them all up to the minimum 20. That'll give the developer 30 feet to be able to put in the interior of the development to provide more open space, because that front setback is typically not used by the residents. We thought this was a better idea to do it this way. We have a handful of discrepancies in the use table. Back in 2010, trade schools were put in as permitted uses in the industrial zones. For some reason, that never made it to the use table, never made it to the ordinance. We're correcting that, putting that in. We're moving sanitary landfills under the correct category. We've taken child care center out, where they're now called daycare centers. We've added cabinet and woodworking shops back in the industrial zones. That was erroneously left out. And we put a clarification in for manufacturing uses. All of our commercial zones have a clarifier that says all other commercial uses except as listed. We've done the same thing under manufacturing, as manufacturing and land uses evolve. Essentially, there are a lot of uses we don't think of that somehow are, they just have that clarifier. Any type of manufacturing uses that are not specifically listed would be allowed in I-2. We have put a provision in. We have a daycare shortage, as you all know, And we think it's reasonable to allow smaller commercial daycares to be placed on local streets. There are a number of parcels around the city where folks have come in for daycare, and we're like, well, you can't do it there because it's not on a thoroughfare or a collector. So this would allow smaller daycares to be put in instances on local streets. They still have to obviously meet the parking requirements, buffer requirements, playground requirements, et cetera, et cetera. Under accessory dwelling units, we have a provision that requires the facilities to be owner occupied. That's probably a violation of the Fair Housing Act. So we're taking away that provision. And we also, the way the code is written, you can have an ADU with attached structure. So if you have 10 units of townhomes, each one could have an ADU. It was never our intent to allow them on, to essentially double the size of a development with a townhome development. So we're clarifying that ADUs are only applicable with single-family detached and not attached. That's a pretty heavy change to the code if we were to allow it to interpret it that way. We're taking out wood as an allowable material for dumpster enclosures. They tend to just fall apart after a few years. They could, be allowed as trim, but right now you could, with this proposal, it could be metal, it could be brick, it could be vinyl, it could be hardy plank, and those have been used in the past with success. With catering, our ordinance has home occupation standards, and the way the ordinance reads, it says a non-residential catering business is applicable, has to follow these home occupation standards. It makes no sense. We're essentially moving it back in the code where it should be. We're adding hair and nail salons as home occupations. Those have been historically interpreted to be low-impact uses, and we've allowed those in the past, a one-chair maximum. So we're putting those back in to specifically say hair and nail salons as a home occupation. And we're adding a caveat to prohibit firearm production as a home occupation. We're also putting a requirement in about the maximum number of vehicles for a home occupation that could be there for clients, a maximum of 2. That way we ensure that the residential neighborhoods aren't overrun by client visits. And we've updated the daycare limits. These are home-based daycares as opposed to the ones I spoke about before, which are the commercial daycares. Home daycare limits now, House Bill 259 allows up to 10 kids, and we had 8. We're just complying with the general statutes with this one. We have moved the neighborhood infill district back to, we have a bare spot in Article 9, a vacant section, so we're sliding it over from 9.14 to like 9.5. So we're just putting it in a holding spot, so we'll have more room at the end of Article 9. We're putting a clarifier in that says that your required handicap parking can be counted within your overall number of parking spaces. For example, if you've got 10 parking spaces, you're required 1 handicap, you're required 10 and not 11. So the handicap will be placed within that minimum number of parking spaces that are required. We're also clarifying that common open space within a subdivision cannot be placed within an individual lot. Maybe 15 years ago, that was an allowable thing. Now you have single-family lots that have what is supposed to be common open space with trees. Trees get cut down, people build patios, swing sets. So it's really not open space that's usable or for the benefit of the neighborhood.
So that would be open space that would be calculated as what they're required to have.
Correct.
Can't be within.
It cannot be within the boundary of an individual lot.
Thank you.
Article 12, there's a provision that in our current code that says that signs for PUDs, TNDs, and conditional district zoning can be approved through the zoning process. The permits can be approved through the zoning process. That just confuses the heck out of everybody. So we're just saying for all signs, you have to go through and jump through your normal sign permit process. We're proposing a provision that allows ground-mounted signs within a right-of-way if you have an encroachment agreement. Now, there are 2 instances where this would be applicable if you have a road widening, which we had one about 7 or 8 months ago where DOT took a strip of the property. There's a sign there. There's no place to put it except within the right-of-way. So we're proposing to say, well, if the owner of the right-of-way, whether it's the city or DOT, Duke Power, or whoever, would allow a sign within that right-of-way with an encroachment agreement, we would allow it. It just makes it a lot easier. And another instance would be if you have a really deep right-of-way such as Warren C. Coleman Boulevard, where you have 2 lanes, but it's got enough right-of-way for 6 lanes, and the sign would be way back off the street. We would allow an encroachment agreement to allow the sign to be moved to where it's actually visible. There's a typographical error in 12.4.4 that refers to wall signs, which is under the freestanding sign section. We're changing that, and we're adding in Article 14 the definition for a trade school. So all of these items, as I mentioned, we think they're all reasonable. They're all easy. Planning Commission had very few comments or questions. We've had 5 staff people working on a list of these easy changes to make to the ordinance, just to make it a lot simpler for us and a lot simpler for the general public to understand. So these are the first 2 bullet points were the ones approved by Planning and Zoning Commission unanimously. Last month, the proposal is consistent with the 2030 land use plan, is under section 5.2 general land use challenges, opportunities. It identifies maintaining the community's character, and their other statement they adopted, the proposal is reasonable and that it ensures that the ordinance is consistent with the goal of maintaining the community's character by complying with the NC General statutes addressing clerical errors, providing clarity, and maintaining the staff's ability to officially administer the ordinance. And so your next steps would be to consider the amendment, approve a statement of consistency, either bullets 1 and 2 or bullets 1 and 3, and that last bullet would actually be to approve the amendment as proposed.
All right. Yep. Any question from council? All right. Thank you very much. We'll move to petitions and requests. Number 1, consider naming a street Brown Operations Center to Public Works at Way Southwest.
And this item is as you know, there's a street that connects Warren C. Coleman and Alfred Brown Drive down at the Brown Operations Center. It's the site of the Traffic Management Center and the Fleet Services Facility. There are 2 buildings that are going to be there. There have been some issues with deliveries. Per the addressing ordinance, council has to approve a street name whenever there's a street name change or a new street name. Public Works Way Southwest is what is proposed. That's been vetted by the folks at the Brown Center, and they're in agreement with that name. So we would ask you to approve that name on Thursday night.
All right, any question from council? All right. Number 2, consider adopting a resolution authorizing eminent domain.
The electric department would like to build a 100 kV transmission line on Rock Hill Church Road. And in the easement acquisition process, we found that 3625 has essentially been abandoned. The last owner of record, Miss Allison, died in 1993. The taxes have not been paid since 2011. So we are asking for a resolution to acquire this utility easement on this property by eminent domain action.
Thank you. Question for council? All right. Thank you very much. Number 3, consider approving a 2025 funding request from We Build Concord.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Dr. Patrick Graham will come forward and present this request to council.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor, City Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. I believe this is in a packet. I'm not sure if that could be brought up for you. But we are requesting $1.8 million from the Affordable Housing Revolving Fund. And this is actually to help continue to complete projects that are either underway or about to start. Currently, WeBuild has both completed and underway over $21 million in housing projects. So we're going to continue on that path. 38 built, another 61 in the hopper. We would have even more, but we decided when it comes to public dollars and those of private donors, we had one venture off of Pitch Road we felt after due diligence would not be the best use of public and private dollars. So we will continue with the other projects that we have currently. And so what you see before you is actually a breakdown of those projects, some of the current costs, and of course, there are some lots that we're currently in the development stage. These being specifically these funds for Malvern, Kerr, and Corbin. Corbin is going to be our first 55-plus development, and currently planning and development is helping us with that property in terms of coming up with a good plan to help us with some of the setbacks. With that, I ask if you have any questions for me.
We see the other two back there.
Any questions from council?
I think that bottom line is the most important. When you look at the far left, the 7 million and change, 7.479, that's the money from the general fund. And WeBuild has leveraged that into almost 22 million. So WeBuild is doing almost exactly what we dreamed 4 years ago, to leverage our general fund with other funding methods and private funds, and also plow the proceeds back into these projects. There's another 4 million in cash reserves on top of the 22 million, 3,
I
4.
wouldn't call them reserves.
Yeah. They'll be
Definitely
spent.
committed.
They'll be spent. So, very
I wish
good.
they were reserved.
Dr. Graham, very good.
Other questions? And is that a good thumbs up? All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Oh, by the way, too, we are coming very close to wrapping up Lincoln. I believe there should be something at your desk on approval so that we can get COs for that to move forward.
Thank you. Number 4, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute Amendment 3, Work Authorization 2204 with Talbot Bright Ellingson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Dirk will present this item to council this evening.
Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason, you have a request in front of you is admin number 3, work authorization, number 3 deals with TB&E. The request is for $43,958 to do some engineering work for a sanitary sewer lift for the North Apron Access Road. It's something that was based on review from the City of Engineering, And so the total amount for the design amendments 1, 2, and 3 will include $492,517.00. We do have a grant of $5 million earmarked from NCDOT General Assembly, and so we're asking approval to move forward with this. So I hit the street.
Thank you. Question, council?
When Dirk hears 22 million, he's like, well, that's 2 months' work for me.
I'll probably need more than that, so.
It's 2
Thank
weeks.
you.
2 weeks, yes. Thank you. Number 5, consider awarding material bids for Substation Enterprises, Virginia Transformer Corporation.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Jared from the Electric Department is going to present items 5 and 6, both related to Substation N. So Jared, if you would.
Good afternoon, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. The city had a public bid opening on October 22nd, 2024, where we received sealed bids from 10 suppliers for substation equipment to be installed at the city's new Substation N on Copperfield. This includes the steel structure, 2 power transformers, 2 15 kV breakers, and 1 metal-clad switchgear for a total cost of $4,334,604. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Right. Question, council?
Questions just on the 2 that didn't get any bids. What will you be doing with Schedule 3 and Schedule 4?
So one of them will be a 121 kV circuit breaker. That'll be a main breaker that'll be on next month's agenda with delivery 3. The next agenda item will cover the 115 kV circuit switcher.
So item 6 handles the other one you didn't get bids for. Okay.
Yes,
Gotcha.
sir.
Gotcha.
Well, we'll move right to item 6 then. Consider purchasing 2 115K circuit switches.
So substation N requires 215 kV circuit switchers. These circuit switchers were quoted at $250,384.28 for both. They are available through Wesco's distribution Sourcewell contract. These circuit switchers meet all specified requirements for this site. I will be happy to answer any questions.
Questions? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number 7, consider approval to move forward with the conveyance based on preliminary plat 25.12 acres of Red Hill development.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sheila's going to present this item to council this evening.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. Before you tonight is the approval to accept the conveyance of 25.127 acres of open space located in the Red Hill neighborhood development from Niblock Homes. The location is off Troxler Circle and Lucky Drive. The property is adjacent to the Irish Buffalo Creek, a greenway corridor that's identified in the the adopted open space connectivity plan, and it also addresses the strategic goal number 3. The conveyance includes 0.75 miles of natural surface greenway trail, a bridge over an intermittent tributary to the Irish Buffalo Creek, and 2 parking lots. Also, a part of this request tonight, we are also seeking council's approval for a memorandum of understanding along with the conveyance. The memorandum of understanding is for the future construction of a replica of the Red Hill Tavern building by Niblock Homes. That will also include 2 restrooms. The replica is designed to preserve a part of history for the area. The building will be donated to the City of Concord and will be used as restrooms for the Greenway Corridor and community space reservable for citizens to use. This will also address council goal, strategic plan goal number 5, which is develop unique places and destinations, and council goal number 6, leverage communications and partnerships. Mr. Niblock provided council with a booklet about the history of the area and his vision to preserve a part of Cabarrus County history. I put that on each council's stand or their seats tonight for Mr. Niblock. I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have, and Mr. Niblock will also be here on Thursday if you have any questions for him. I'll be glad to answer any questions.
Well, I'll just make a statement. This really fits in well with our Carolina Thread Trail and our plans to move forward between Kannapolis and Concord on this.
Yes, and connect Gibson Mill to
Yes.
Kannapolis and to downtown.
Wow. Good job.
Thank you.
Questions?
I really like this. I know the land is not usable for anything else, but for us to get this and use it for Greenway, this building, and maybe the old school, I think this is a great gift.
Questions? Sheila, you say 2 parking lots. I know there's one up next to the old Pfeiffer Cemetery. Where's
The other one is pulled out of where the mailboxes are. The HOA will take the mailboxes and that space for landscaping. The parking lot up there will also be a part of the city for trailhead parking for the Greenway to access.
But they're not giving it to, according to the plat you got in here, it's outside, so they're not donating that parking lot, are they?
From my understanding, the
The
plat
bound-
was included. It goes right up to the mailboxes.
Okay. It's not on the map. And the 2 buildings, in this, it says they'll need private funding. Is that secured, or, I mean, are those 2 buildings
That will be a question for Mr. Niblock. The conveyance right now, the memorandum of understanding is a separate piece of the conveyance. And the memorandum of understanding is agreeing that once it is built and he has funded that project, no city funds will be asked for this project, then it will be given back to the city.
Okay, and that'll be the tavern, the new building. The old
Correct,
school
community
is
room.
on the Pfeiffer Cemetery property.
When we originally, council agreed for me to save the Meadowview School, it was council's direction for the rebuild of that school to be a grassroots organization. The Historic Association has reached out to Mr. Niblock as that grassroots organization to rebuild the school in an area here to preserve the history of the area and a historic destination,
Not our property.
not our property. Now, at the same time, this may be a request back to council. At this time, I do not know.
For the school or for the tavern?
For the tavern is planned to come back. That's the only thing that's a part of this request. Anything else has not been communicated to me as far as grassroots, as far as any city information. What has been communicated and what I communicated is council's direction that the rebuilding of the school needs to take place by a grassroots organization, that they will then come back to council and request the container that contains that school.
And this is a school we took apart six
Yes,
years
it will
ago?
be the only African-American one-room schoolhouse in Cabarrus County.
Sheila, and I might be missing it, where is the tavern location? Am I missing that on here?
That will be adjacent to the parking lot. That is an agreement that will come after Mr. Niblock secures funding to build that replica of the tavern.
Awesome, thank you.
Yes, sir. I would have, don't have it there. I'm sorry.
Okay, any more questions?
I have one. The one-time cost of $61,575, what would that cover?
If the tavern does happen, that would be for tables and chairs and restroom fixtures in the restroom, ice machine, because it will run just like our other community rooms that will be reservable for citizens to use for meetings, birthday parties, and events.
Okay. And the $97.50, that would just be maintenance costs?
Yeah, and upkeep and any reservable stuff if anything has to be replaced. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, number 8, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate an extra contract with GMV Synchromatics.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Andy will present this item to council this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Payne, Mayor, members of council, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. This is a computer-aided dispatch and automatic vehicle location system for both our big bus fleet as well as our supervisor vehicles and paratransit vans. We have a system in place right now that will be reaching its useful life over the next couple of months. So staff has been in the process over the past few weeks of preparing for this implementation of a new system. So the advantages are twofold for a new category system. One, sort of on the back end dispatch operations side, and then secondarily on the public side as more so sort of an amenity. For operations, it provides the benefit, a long list of benefits such as being able to see where the vehicles are at any given time when they're in service or out of service, passenger load on the vehicle, live speed of the vehicles, traffic, any sort of emergency situation, and communication with the operators. And then on the public side, it offers the benefit of trip planning, vehicle location. You could favorite your stop if you're a passenger and get notifications of when the bus or the van is going to be arriving, estimated time of arrival at your stop. So just numerous benefits of the system. Secondarily to the project, but also important, we have APCs, which are automatic passenger counters on the bus. This CAD AVL system will allow integration for those, so we'll be getting tons of data from a passenger counting standpoint, which is also a requirement from a federal perspective. And then Wi-Fi. The public will have access to Wi-Fi when they're commuting or going to class on the buses. So we conducted an RFP process for this project. GMV Synchromatics is the selected firm that we were proposing to go with. Cost over a 3-year contract, the total would be $469,975. We have grant funds from a federal perspective in place at 75% for the project. So Concord's resulting share after splitting it with Kannapolis would come to $58,741 over the 3 years. We have year one money budgeted at $250,000 for the project. The actual number came in just below that at $249,877. That split 80-20 federal to local, so the resulting share for Concord would be $24,988 for year one. And I'll be glad to take any questions.
Thank you. Any questions, Vandy?
I don't have any questions, just comments. I was in the last Transit Commission meeting and heard the presentation from the representative, and it is a very good product compared to what we have now. We're not getting what we should be getting with the company that we have now, so I think it will be very beneficial going forward.
We have put some safe holds in the upcoming contract to make sure that we don't face the current situation that we're in.
Other questions? All right. Thank you, Andy.
Thank you.
Number 9, consider adopting a resolution in support of NCDOT project to modify the intersection of Bruton Smith and Weddington.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Philip's going to present this item to council this evening.
All right. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolczynski, Ms. Deason. This is a request for resolution from NCDOT to make a modification to the Bruton Smith and Weddington Road intersection. Our staff and their staff have recently discussed operational improvements to this intersection as we manage this through agreements with NCDOT as far as traffic flow is concerned, especially during speedway events, heavy shopping times, and so forth. So looking at this with their staff, NCDOT ran some analysis on this, and without going to large, extravagant changes to this intersection, what they essentially have proposed here is to reestablish, if you're coming from I-85 going back towards the speedway, and actually I could probably put this on the dock camera to better explain. There we go. 3, 2, 1. Maybe. Just kidding. Oh, there we are. All right, fantastic. We're there. Oh, that's super clear. Great. And great show. Here we go. All right. So coming from the interstate, Jack in the Box here, the right turn lane that used to exist in front of Jack in the Box there would be reestablished in this plan. That is probably the less minor of the impacts that you would see here. The other major point is that there would no longer be through movements from Weddington Road across Bruton Smith Boulevard. That traffic pattern would be rerouted via Gateway Lane. We would work with the state on signing that properly and so forth for motorists. The state is proposing or is committing to funding this project. They're doing it in future resurfacing project. They would do the island modifications in the intersection, striping, the paving, and so forth. They're simply looking for our support in this. We would, again, continue to monitor, retime, and look at the surrounding intersections through our agreements, through our C&D agreements that we currently have with the state. We touch this area probably more than we touch any other area due to the traffic volumes we have here. And as far as what we're rerouting, we're only rerouting, it's less than 5% of the total traffic movements over the course of a day here. So I'm sure there's going to be questions on this, so happy to take those.
Phil, I've got one, if I may,
Yes, sir.
Mayor. If you were, I guess it would be southbound on Weddington.
Yes.
I think I understood, if I heard you right, you cannot cross Bruton Smith now from Weddington going southbound and continue down to like Great Wolf Lodge?
Correct, correct. So we would sign that.
The other
to where
way?
You would make a left on the gateway and
Gateway?
have to essentially.
How
come
about
around.
coming from Gatewood, how about coming from Great Wolf across? Will you be able to do that?
You would make a right turn and then a left on the
Maybe
gateway
down-
there,
down-
Bojangles.
Down the road someplace?
Yes, sir.
How are you
You
gonna
could
get
make,
back?
you could make a U-turn in the roadway there, or you can make a left there on the gateway, which takes
Makes
you
sense.
around to that. It
I was
reduces,
saying-
it reduces the phasing of the intersection. This is a signal there's no more time to throw at it as it stands
good.
today. And this was, again, the not millions of dollar correction that, as y'all are probably aware from the MPO side, that we just simply can't scrounge
We've
up.
been involved with this for a long time, but I've personally been involved with it for a long time, since I've been in town. If I were a guest at Great Wolf Lodge, I would not like this. Let's just put it that way. You know, I think that's gonna be a real problem.
Well,
for them, so.
and that's where I believe we will be involved throughout this, especially from the signing standpoint, because it was Weddington Road, Gateway Road, those are all City of Concord roads.
Sure.
We can install the signs, monitor. If that doesn't work, we will continue to adjust and fix those.
Just make it more confusing. Yeah, go ahead. Who's next?
Go ahead, I'll go next.
I didn't quite grasp that. So the original plan extended the loading lanes out towards I-85 for the left turn.
Yes, sir.
There's not a lot of straight-through traffic on Weddington across, but to try to make that left turn would be suicidal. The people that are making the left to go to all those fast food things take huge chances already. Common sense says that won't work, to make us turn left on the Gateway, coming up Weddington or down Weddington.
Oh, you're talking about down here.
Yeah.
Turn the gateway and come around.
Correct. Right. Okay, so you're.
When you
okay,
look at
I got
this
what
picture
you're
and see how
saying now.
many
Yeah.
cars are queued up to make a left now, and there's no room there to make that left when you're coming up Weddington. I get it, this intersection is
So I'm sorry, if you're coming from Great
other
Wolf
side,
Lodge,
other side.
if you're coming from Concord.
You
towards
said turn
Great Wolf,
left on the Gateway?
You would turn left on the Gateway. We have the
That's terrible.
leftovers there.
Yeah,
That's even worse.
that's terrible. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
I travel that a lot, not to interrupt here, but I travel that a lot. And the turn left on the Gateway is a disaster. I mean, a literal disaster. I'm surprised there's not 10 wrecks a week there. You can't see once the queue for people turning left off of Bruton to Weddington, that queues up going into like the Kentucky Fried Chicken and all that. You can't see the cars coming. It's gonna be a disaster.
And all you're doing is funneling them into another left turn that we try
Yeah.
to stop. So I'm gonna come around and then make another left at the next light.
Right. You're taking them before the main intersection to cross those two lanes instead of.
Back into lane.
Instead of,
It's like Frogger at that intersection, I promise you. It is. It is. Making a left-hand turn on the Gateway is like Frogger with traffic coming off of Bruton Smith down Weddington Avenue. Don't even know what that light.
I didn't grasp that.
The unfortunate part of that as well is when we looked at what the ultimate solution to that was, the analysis kind of came out to a larger roundabout at that intersection. So you can imagine putting a roundabout that close to the main intersection. It just simply messed up the main corridor, main Bruton Smith, in that process. What we also have looked at is whether we should eliminate this left turn movement coming from Bruton Smith into KFC and essentially have folks go further down to the other gateway. And that's a long way to send them as well. I think we're taking this one step at a time in that regard.
Jennifer?
Yeah, so Philip, I disagree. Somebody at Great Wolf's not going to care because they ain't going to know the difference. Jennifer, on the other hand, and the people that live here, I guess my question is to Philip, what input would we have, right, from a perspective? Because I really do have concerns about this intersection. There are still people getting tickets which I pray, just so you know, Jimmy, every time I'm like, I hope there's a cop here, that backup traffic so bad at Poplar Tent and 29, you know, those left, the no, it is, it's a dangerous intersection still, you know, when people, so from a, I guess what I'm talking about from a signage standpoint, it's a real challenge at that intersection, and it's nowhere near the depth and the width and all of that. So, and then I guess my other question would be, how are we, or not how, but I'm going to give you feedback from a perspective of how, of knowing if I'm coming down and I'm going to go to Great Wolf and I've got to now turn on Gateway. Also a concern that now somebody's going to try to jump that intersection all the way across, right? Because I think a lot of times people, you know, and maybe this is more the outer towner, like if I've got to go this way, how do I get there? I know I'm going there, right? So I have a little bit of concern down there at that intersection where Gateway comes into Bruton Smith. Does that make sense, that lower one down there?
They're at Bojangles, between
Yeah,
Bojangles
and so
Hooters.
then are you, hey, if you're, you know, and maybe it's more of a wayfinding, right? Hey, if you're going to Great Wolf, now you need to go this way kind of thing. I feel like maybe some additional directional in that way of like, oh, and then if I'm going to the Speedway and I'd missed my turn, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of opportunity at that intersection, and I hear you from a funding perspective, completely understand. I think it's going to be a real challenge.
Well, and like I said, the good thing on that side of it is with our sign shop, internal sign shop, we'll make those signs. We'll give folks those directions. A little bit different than Poplar Tent and 29, where all legs but McGill are the states. We'll sign that along the way. We have looked at as well that if volumes do increase more than expected, than what we're expecting on what's being rerouted at that Gateway and Bruton Smith intersection, even the state has said that is a strong candidate for a tone signal there for safety. For a signal at that intersection as well, at Bruton Smith and Gateway, the Bojangles intersection, if you will. If those volumes increase further than what was anticipated.
I'm going to try to help you. I think what you're trying to accomplish is more time for the left turn off of Bruton onto Weddington, because that's what backs into I-85. Is that the ultimate hope here? That we're moving?
Ultimately, is to get those left turns off of Bruton Smith onto Weddington, because those are backing up into the through lanes, backing towards the interstate, providing enough time on the other legs, especially during the event season as well.
So let me ask the question. If I were coming off the interstate and getting into that intersection, making a left on Weddington, has that been a real issue backing up? I haven't seen it back big time.
It has, especially.
I travel this all the time, by the way. I literally travel this every day.
And say when I say an event Saturday, I don't mean just NASCAR races, but just any visitor-driven time of the year. We've got our video, and we had looked at the extending those left turn lanes before. All that does is it just moves the problem closer to the interstate, it seemed.
But I don't know.
Philip, I don't think there's a fix for that. I don't think this is it. I just don't think we can fix that intersection.
I think you're going to create.
I think I'd have trouble with this one.
Well, again, I believe there's a larger solution to this. It's just financially, we're going to be a lot further down the road before we can get to that.
But we just added all the turn lanes, 3 years ago, to the coming right off of Weddington. That was a dual turn lane we added.
Right.
And obviously the ones coming off of Bruton. I just think the solution is trying to be adopted is just going to create more issues. I travel this all the time. I don't know how many folks here. I travel almost every day for whatever reason. And that turn, I'm telling you, going on the Gateway is literally a disaster waiting to happen.
Bill, one
we'll
last
come
one.
back, so.
The turn off of Weddington left on the Gateway, how many cars can we put in that left turn lane? Because I think you're going to back it up onto Weddington.
You are?
It's going to be almost impossible to make that left on the Gateway coming from Weddington. So you've got about a 6-car lane there, Philip, maybe 5 for that. Nobody makes that left.
It's not much, I would tell you.
Yeah.
It holds about 4 cars.
So if you're not going to load some more there, you're creating we are.
Yeah, so, which was one of the reasons we had the 2 lanes, same scenario, going off of Weddington, turning right on the Bruton Smith. Remember, we added that other lane there? That was part of the reasoning for that, I thought, yeah.
That's helped a lot.
That's helped a lot, but not this gateway scenario, yeah, unless you put another queue of some sort. It'll hold 2 cars, by the way. That's all it holds.
Let me jump ahead.
Short term.
We've got 2 very large industrial buildings that are for lease. Paige is sitting back there.
Oh, yeah.
They can obviously come out of those buildings, go left, and then go left on Pitt School to get to 85. If those trucks are going to try to make this intersection, jumping ahead, we need to be thinking about stopping 18-wheelers coming so far on Weddington.
You don't see that many doing this. You
yeah.
haven't seen that many on this. They take Pitt School now.
These next 2, their only interest is on Weddington. That's where they dump them.
Well, they're on Pitt School. Or Belt Road, actually. They're on Belt.
Yes, go ahead.
Well, right at Bond,
So,
you mean?
Philip, just for clarification, this is a DOT project, not a City of Concord project, and they're asking for our support. They're
Correct.
willing to pay 100%.
Correct.
So if City Council declines to issue the resolution of support, what's the likelihood the project moves forward anyway?
It will not.
Okay.
They are not going to proceed forward with this project if we do not pass the resolution. That is, I guess, maybe I don't know that they've always done that in the past,
With this?
but definitely they want the municipality support for these now.
Yeah, I just think that's important for council to understand that as a possible option based on some of the comments and feedback, so.
Which means
Understood.
it stays as is, correct?
Which means-
Correct. If you all decide that this is a no, and this is we'll continue to do what we would do whether this project happens or not. We're going to continue to look at those larger options. If we do this project, that doesn't stop us from looking at the larger options. We're going to keep doing that. We're going to keep going to the MPO. Lord willing, funds are available as we go forward with that, and we'll look at the big picture.
Yeah, not to end it with a negative, but it's just not a good solution, Phil.
Understood.
Personally, I don't think it is, so.
Do we know the count of people that make, Google takes me this way. When I leave my house, they want me to take this way to Charlotte. I don't do that. I go out Poplar 10, get on 85. Do we know how many people are going across Pitt School from this intersection? It's got to be the
Across
majority of
Bruton Smith?
traffic.
You mean across Bruton Smith Boulevard?
No, coming off Bruton and then continuing all the way across Pitt School up Weddington. There's a considerable amount of traffic that could get off at Poplar Tent or George Lyles
Sure.
and miss this intersection if we had a way to encourage that.
I'm trying to make sure I understand.
So you get off 85
Yes, sir.
at Bruton Smith.
Okay.
Take a right, take a left on Weddington.
Okay,
Most of that traffic that gets on Weddington continues across Pitt School and goes up Weddington.
I got you. Yes.
So I don't take this route. I go out Poplar 10, I usually go out George Lyles.
Sure.
And it is a little bit longer. It's a minute or so longer by Mr. Google, but I don't take my life in my hands trying to get through that intersection. So is
Yeah.
there a way to change our habits?
That's $1 million traffic engineer question, I guess, is the change driver's behavior. We put up the signs that say Concord's the next 6 exits, I believe. There's the dynamic message boards on the interstate. But that's really for emergency situations. Yeah, there's only so much we can do to push them on past the versus, a good shopping Saturday morning when they see the traffic backed up, and hopefully that they keep going.
I understand we're just asking for our support on this, but how much is DOT putting into this project? You know?
I don't have a dollar amount. That would come in, like I said, they would do this more with a resurfacing project in the future. I believe that would be on their next cycle, so probably the 26, 27 timeframe.
But I guess what I'm saying, if we don't support this, but find a better solution, can those funds be transferred over to help with that?
Honestly, I think the better solutions to this will be so much higher,
not
that
gonna make any
it'll be a different pot of money. This would be in their operating maintenance funds versus a project fund.
This almost needs to be a super street, in my opinion, if you had the room to do it.
Correct. There are a number of options as far as whether to send traffic, those left turns further down to Gateway, essentially, or to make a U-turn. The problem with that is the topography out there is it drops off pretty hard from Britzman Boulevard down to those restaurants.
Hendricks or somebody down at the other end, so.
Okay. Okay, I think you should have a good idea of where we stand.
Sure. So,
Any more questions?
Yep.
Yes,
Hey,
thank
hey.
you.
We're not jabbing at you, trust me.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for being here today.
Yeah.
You held it well, but Phil, good
Yes,
job.
yes. All right, number 10, consider authorizing city manager to negotiate and execute a construction contract with BRS Incorporated.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So Jeff will handle items 10 and 11 for council this evening.
Welcome, Jeff. Is yours going to be as good?
Yeah, now that that's over with, let's, good evening, Mayor, Council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, Ms. Deason. A couple sewer items for you tonight. The first is a construction contract for a 12-inch public sewer extension. This is Phase 3, the third and final phase of the grounds at Concord Sewer Extension to serve up towards Golden Home and that southern section of the grounds. Formal bids were received on November 1st, and the low bidder was BRS Incorporated at a cost of $2,075,932.10. And we'll ask that you approve execution of that construction contract as well as a capital project amendment to move some money around to fully fund that project.
Question, council? All right. All right, moving on to number 11, consider adopting changes in the sewer policy.
Yes, this is an item we discussed at your last work session, so we have the clean policy ready for your review and adoption. We did make some general text cleanups as we discussed to eliminate some text that was no longer valid, as well as better reflecting the actual prioritization process that you guys go through every quarter, and then continued to eliminate any references to the policy score which existed at the very beginning. So we think we've got that completely out of the policy now. So
questions?
So how will this reflect on our packets that we get for December?
yeah, I believe that they will match the new very favorable, that new language will be adopted in the packet. That's correct. Yep, no scores at all, just that text.
Any more questions? All right, thank you, Jeff.
Thank you.
Number 12, consider modifying economic development agreement with Boots Mead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Jackie's going to cover the remaining 3 items on your agenda, items 12, 13, and 14.
Welcome.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Payne, Ms. Kolchinsky, and Ms. Deason. To go along with what Jeff said, this is a modification to the economic development with Boots Mead. So they are going to be reimbursing us, and the original agreement that was signed in May of 2020 does not allow for an intermittent reimbursement. So for the completed work that's already in the ground, that infrastructure, we will be reimbursed for that with the approval of this amendment.
Questions?
Any questions about that one?
All right, thank you. Number 13,
This is a
preliminary application.
preliminary application for Zale McCurdy. For water service at 9750 DeWitt Road, Concord, North Carolina, which is outside of our city limits. So it's currently undeveloped. They would like to develop a single-family home, and it's currently zoned LDR. Sewer is not available.
Okay, question from council? All right, thank you very much. Number 14, consider preliminary application from Robert Rahili.
Okay, similarly, 5615 Zion Church Road is outside of the city limits. The property is currently undeveloped, and they would also like to construct a single-family home. The parcel is zoned LDR, and sanitary sewer is not available to the parcel.
Question from council? All right. Thank you very much. Going to the consent agenda, anyone want to discuss anything or remove anything from the consent agenda?
Mayor, I'm not asking, I guess, for an item to be removed, but I just have some questions, and I don't know if I can ask those
I
questions.
think we need to ask to have it removed and put onto the,
Okay.
which is fine. You just go ahead and ask.
Okay, let me get down to the number. R, consent agenda.
Item R, PQR. Is there a motion to take item R, consider approving a change in classification compensation system, including civilian traffic crash investigator? Is there a motion to move it?
Is that one of yours?
Okay. Move second, all in favor, raise your hand. And that will be item number 15. Go ahead.
I can go and ask my questions now?
Yes,
Okay.
it's open.
So I know that this has taken place across the, agencies across the state by placing a civilian traffic crash investigator within the police department. So is the goal to improve efficiency as to how accidents are handled? What's all involved? And I did look up the statute, so I have that understanding. But how will this impact our department?
So the idea would be that it would alleviate some of the time that's committed by sworn staff to allow for a non-sworn staff to be able to handle those traffic crashes that do not have a traffic citation or an arrest associated with it. And that would allow for those sworn members to be available for other calls for service or to do other proactive assignments. So it's been tested in Wilmington and a few others cities across North Carolina. Wilmington utilizing quite a few number, actually given the size of the city, have been able to reduce the time committed by sworn staff significantly. And then if there is some type of an associated arrest or a citation that's needed, the traffic crash investigator gathers the information, calls by an on-duty police officer to take care of whatever criminal process there may be, and then they can continue with the traffic crash. And it's only for property damage only crashes, so it would not be for personal injury crashes.
Okay. And is the goal going forward to, I guess, maybe to add additional civilian traffic?
Yes, ma'am. So we would be taking two current positions, not increasing the staff of the police department, to test this, to verify that the information from Wilmington and other cities is applicable here in Concord as well. And then provided that it does go the direction I think it will, it would be to eventually add additional positions, which would reduce that volume of traffic to the police officers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Any more questions?
Thank you.
Thank you very much. And that moves us to our closed session. We have a short closed session tonight. Before I do that, just if you haven't seen today, the base coat of asphalt is being laid between the square and Killarney right now. So the parade will move forward down Union Street. So motion to go into closed session. General statute pursuant to NC General Statute 11A, 3, and 4, in order to consult with an attorney to protect client-attorney privilege and discuss the location expansion of industries and businesses in the area served by this public body. Is there a motion? All in favor, raise your hand. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone, for being here in Concord 101. I'm just so proud of you staying in with us the whole way here. Come on back Thursday night, and all we'll do is vote.